When it's dark and dreary in these winter months, what do you most like to do? I'm hoping that some of you might say you love to sit by a cosy fire and listen to a good story. That's a great way to make your heart warm and bring good cheer. Hello everyone, I'm Kathleen Pelly. Welcome to the special omnibus edition of Journey with Story, where you can listen to all of this month's episodes in one single sitting. Oh, mums and dads, and all of you grown-ups, you might be interested in a little handout that I have available on my website that gives you lots of tips on raising kids who love to read. Of course, I know you're interested in that because you're already sharing this storytelling podcast with your little ones. So go to www.journeywithstory.com and click on the Resources tab at the top. And you can also find the link in our episode notes. Now, let's take an omnibus journey with Story. Now, let's take a journey with Pandora's box. In ancient times, before human beings walked the earth, the gods, titans and other immortals made earth their home. One day, Zeus, the king of all the gods, ordered two titans, Prometheus and his brother Epimetheus, to create the animals and the first men. The two brothers went to the riverbank and set about forming the first animals and humans from clay. Epimetheus gave the animals many gifts, such as swiftness of foot, piercing vision, and unbounded strength. But then, too late, he realized he now did not have enough gifts to bestow on the humans. Prometheus, feeling sorry for the poor mortals, stole fire from Mount Olympus and carried it down to them. But Zeus was furious. How dare these mortals take fire that belonged to the gods? He would have his revenge. How? Listen now to the story of Pandora's box. Zeus asked the other gods to help him make a very special woman. Not only was she bright and beautiful, but she was also clever and charming and musical. Then Zeus sent for Epimetheus.
"Here is a wife for you,"
he said.
"She is your reward for making all the animals of the earth."
Then Zeus gave the couple a special box, bound and locked.
"Keep this safe,"
he commanded them.
"And I warn you, at all costs, you must never, ever open this box. You are to keep it locked at all times."
The young couple agreed to do as Zeus had commanded, and then Epimetheus set off at once to marry the beautiful Pandora. So enchanted was he with her beauty and charm that he forgot to heed his brother's warning. Never accept gifts from the other gods. After the wedding, Prometheus stowed the box in a dark corner of their house. Pandora was delighted with their splendid home. She loved the gardens that brimmed with sweet scented flowers and splashing fountains. But no matter what she was doing, drinking water from the well or closing the upstairs shutters to her room, stirring coals in the hearth or gathering olives in the gardens, she could not stop thinking about the special box that Zeus had given them. Day and night, night and day, the thought of that box niggled her. What was in the box? She wondered. Pandora's husband seemed to know what his wife was wondering. Remember, that box is not to be opened, he reminded her. Never, never, never. The gods have commanded it. We must not disobey them. Meekly, Pandora nodded. Of course, my husband, you're right, she agreed. Still, secretly, when her husband was not looking, Pandora would wonder about the box. What could be in it? She asked herself, over and over again. Jewels? Or some other precious object? One day, when her husband was off in the fields, Pandora happened to catch sight of the box, sitting in a dark corner in a room just off the courtyard. It seemed to call out to her. Pandora tiptoed into the room. The box seemed to give off an odd golden glow. Closer and closer Pandora tiptoed. Suddenly she felt a cold shiver tingle down her spine. Her husband's words rang in her head. Remember, that box has not to be opened. Never, never, never. The gods have commanded it. We must not disobey them. She edged back. Then she turned and ran trembling to her room. Days passed, weeks passed, months passed. But Pandora's wondering about the box did not lessen, not one little bit. Instead, it grew and grew like a storm cloud, swirling and twirling around her until it almost engulfed her. Try as she might, she could not stop thinking or wondering about that box. She tried to distract herself with other simpler thoughts. She sat in the courtyard and admired the brightly coloured blossoms. She listened to the birds singing from the rooftops, and she tossed pebbles into the fountains as she sang all the ancient songs etched in her heart. She even fetched a brush, knelt in the courtyard and painted pictures from the old stories onto the white tiles. But the old stories and songs and pictures all led her mind back to the mysterious locked box. One day, while Pandora was out strolling in the nearby high hills, she came upon, crouched on the rock ledge above her, a graceful mountain lioness staring down at her. For a moment, the woman and the animal stared into each other's eyes. Then, slowly, the lioness turned and in one nimble leap disappeared. Pandora puzzled at what such an encounter could mean, but she could not make any sense of it, and yet, on the way home, she felt a sudden surge of courage. It filled her heart. It banished all her fear. The following morning, Pandora found herself all alone in the house. She walked outside to the courtyard and past the room where the box stood hidden in the corner. The door to the room was ajar. Once more she noticed the box seemed to emit a strange golden glow. Pandora walked right past the room. But then she turned back and began to pace back and forth, back and forth. Again she seemed to hear the box speak to her. Suddenly, Pandora stepped inside the room. She shut the door behind her. Maybe it would be all right if she had just lifted the lid a tiny, teeny little bit and took a very quick peek inside, she told herself. Slowly, Pandora tiptoed forward. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. She felt her heart quiver. Her fingers shook as she fumbled with the lid. Ever so gently, she pried it open and peered inside. Stillness surrounded her. And then, Pandora stumbled backward as if a giant wave had washed over her. She felt herself flung backwards against a wall. Dazed and trembling, she saw horrible winged creatures flap from the box. Gnarly, twisty things spun past her head. Screaming voices drenched the air. Anger.
Large falsehoods. And revenge.
Howls and whistles, screeches and wails rang in her ears. Mustering her courage and strength, Pandora crawled toward the box. A flurry of claws and feathers beat against her hair. She reached up with one arm and just before she could snap the lid back in place, a tiny butterfly fluttered out on yellow wings like a splash of sunlight. I am hope, it sang out. Pandora gasped. Something good remains, she thought. All is not lost. Staggering outside, she met her husband running up to gather her in his arms. The box, she gasped. There were bad things. They have escaped. It was my fault, my fault. Now the air was filled with a black cloud. A terrible storm was brewing. Trouble. I know, answered Epimetheus, grasping Pandora's hand. Harm and evil have entered the world now, but we must be brave, very brave. Pandora nodded. Yes, she could do that. She could be brave. She would use all the gifts and powers the gods had given her. She felt her fear ebb away. She felt a bubble in her heart, a spark of light lifting her spirits. What is it? She wondered. And then she looked up and saw the butterfly fluttering above her. This was hope that she felt. From that day to this, even although we humans have to bear sadness and loss and suffering, we have hope to help lighten our hearts and ease our pain. let's take a journey with the Spider Weaver. Long ago, there was a young farmer named Yosako. One day he was working in the fields and saw a snake about to eat a spider. Yosako felt sorry for the spider, so he ran at the snake with his hoe and drove it away. The spider disappeared into the grass, but first it seemed to pause a moment and bow in thanks toward Yosako. One morning, not long after that, Yosako was in his house when he heard a tiny voice outside calling, "Yosako, Yosako." He opened the door and saw a beautiful girl standing there. "I heard that you are looking for someone to weave cloth for you," said the girl. "Won't you please let me live here and weave for you?" Yosako was very pleased because he did need someone to help him. He showed the girl the weaving room and she started to work at the loom with cotton. At the end of the day, Yosako went to see what she had done and was very surprised to find that she had woven 8 long pieces of cloth, enough to make 8 kimonos. He had never known anyone could weave so much in a single day. "However did you weave so much cloth?" he asked the girl. But instead of answering him, she said, "You must not ask me that. And you must never come into the weaving room while I am at work." But Yosako was very curious. So one day, he slipped quietly to the weaving room and peeped in the window. What he saw really surprised him. It was not the girl who was seated at the loom, but a large spider, weaving very fast with its 8 legs, and for thread it was using its own spider web, which came out of its mouth. Yosako looked again and saw that it was the same spider that he had saved from the snake. Then he understood. The spider had been so thankful that it had wanted to do something to help him. So it had turned itself into a beautiful girl to help him weave cloth. By eating the cotton that was in the weaving room, it could spin it into thread and weave it into cloth very quickly. Yosako was very grateful for the spider's help. He saw that the cotton was almost used up, so the next morning he set out for the nearest village on the other side of the mountains to buy some more. He bought a big bundle of cotton and started home, carrying it on his back. Along the way, a terrible thing happened. As Yosako sat down to rest, the same snake that he had driven away from the spider came and slipped inside the bundle of cotton. But Yosako didn't know about this. So he carried the cotton home and gave it to the girl. She was very glad to get the cotton because she had now used up all the cotton that was left. So she took it and went into the weaving room. As soon as the girl was inside, she turned back into a spider and began eating the cotton so that she could spin it into thread. The spider ate and ate and ate, and then suddenly, when it had eaten down to the bottom of the bundle, the snake jumped right out of the cotton and straight at her. The snake opened its mouth wide to swallow the spider. The spider was very frightened and jumped out the window, but the snake went wriggling after it. But the spider had eaten so much cotton that it couldn't run fast, and the snake soon caught up with it. Again, the snake opened its mouth wide to gulp the spider down. But just then, a wonderful thing happened. Old Man Sun, up in the sky, had been watching what was happening. He knew how kind the spider had been to Yosako, and he felt very sorry for the poor little spider. So he reached down with a sunbeam and caught hold of the end of the web that was sticking out of the spider's mouth, and he gently lifted the spider high up into the sky, where the snake could not reach her. The spider was very grateful to Old Man Sun for saving her from the snake, and so she used all the cotton inside her body to weave many beautiful, fleecy clouds high up in the sky. This is the reason, they say, why clouds are soft and white like cotton, and also why a spider and a cloud are both called by the same name in Japan, Kumo. Now, let's take a journey with the blue cap. One winter's day, when the sea was too rough to go fishing, Ian McCrae decided to make a few repairs to his boat. He needed a good length of timber, so he set off to find some in the forest. But while he was there, a thick mist rolled down the hill, and he lost his way. When the mist finally cleared, Ian found himself on a part of the hillside he didn't recognize. He wandered across the heather for many hours until, to his relief, he saw a small stone hut with a grass roof. Ian knocked on the door. It was opened a crack by an old woman. "Will you give shelter to a weary stranger?" he asked. "You won't find shelter anywhere else on this hillside," she muttered, "so I suppose you must come in. You can sleep by the fire." Two other old women were sitting in the hut. Neither of them spoke a word. Ian lay down by the fire, but he only pretended to go to sleep, for there was such a strange atmosphere in the hut that he decided it would be wiser to keep watch. When the women thought their visitor was asleep, one of them went over to a big wooden chest in the corner of the room. Ian watched secretly as she lifted the heavy lid and took out a blue cap, which she solemnly put on her head. "Carlyle!" she cried. And to his amazement, she disappeared. Then the other woman did the same. Ian realised that his hosts were witches. As soon as all three of them had disappeared, he leaped up and went to examine the chest. Inside lay another blue cap. Filled with curiosity to know where they had gone, he put it on his head and cried, "Carlyle!" At once, Ian found himself whirling through the air at great speed. The journey lasted only a few moments before he landed with a bump and found himself in the huge storeroom of a grand house where the witches were helping themselves to a merry feast. As soon as they saw Ian, they dropped their food in alarm. "Kintail back again!" they cried. And they vanished once more. Ian gazed at the delicious-looking food. Having not eaten all day, he decided to help himself before leaving. However, he ate so much that he fell fast asleep. In the morning, Ian was discovered by a servant and brought before the laird who owned the house. "You must be the thief who has stolen food from my house before," said the laird angrily. "We shall see if you still have an appetite for more." He ordered that Ian should be tied to a stake in the village so people could throw rotten food at him as a punishment for stealing. Ian was taken to the village in a cart. "Let me at least wear my cap against the cold," he said as he was tied to the stake. "It's in my pocket." One of the laird's men pulled the cap out and put it on Ian's head. At once, Ian cried, "Kintail back again!" And he vanished before their eyes. When Ian came to his senses, he was back on the hillside, still tied to the stake. The witch's hut was nowhere to be seen. Just then, a traveller came along. "Will you free me from this stake?" said Ian. The traveller untied the ropes. "What is it for?" he asked. Ian thought for a moment, and then he smiled. "It's to repair my fishing boat," he said, and then he set off home, carrying the stake and whistling cheerfully. Now, let's take a journey with the honest penny. One autumn day, a boy went into the forest to fetch firewood. The cold air turned the boy's nose as red as a cranberry, but he soon warmed himself up by running about and collecting sticks to fill his sack. On the way home, he came across a white crooked stone, as tall as himself. "You look cold, poor thing," said the boy, and he took off his jacket and wrapped it around the stone. Then he continued on his way home. When his mother heard what he had done, she was very cross. "How foolish to give away your jacket!" she cried. "Even if a stone could feel the cold, everyone looks after himself first." She sent him off straight away to fetch the jacket. The boy ran back to the stone. To his surprise, it was now lying on the ground. In the hole where it had stood was a small wooden chest, full of gold, silver, and copper coins. Only stolen money would be hidden beneath a stone, the boy thought to himself. So he lifted out the chest, carried it to a lake nearby, and threw it in the water. The chest and coins sank to the bottom, all except 1 penny, which floated to the surface. "Well, that must be an honest penny," said the boy, "for whatever is honest never sinks." So he picked up the penny and put it in his pocket. When he told his mother what he had done, she was very, very cross. "We could have been rich," she cried. "How foolish to think that only honest things float. Even if the money was stolen, I've told you that everyone looks after himself first." The boy's mother was so exasperated that she refused to have him in the house a moment longer and sent him away to earn some honest money himself. The boy went off to find some work. He had no luck until he came to a seaside town where he got a job in the kitchen of a large house belonging to a rich merchant. A few months after the boy arrived, the merchant arranged a voyage to trade in foreign lands. He asked if anyone in the house wanted him to buy them something on his travels. The cook, the maid, and the butler gave him money and told him what they wanted. The boy handed the merchant his penny. "What shall I buy with this?" asked the merchant with amusement. "There aren't many bargains for a penny." "It's an honest penny," said the boy. "Buy whatever you can get." The merchant promised to buy something for the boy. Then he boarded his ship and sailed away. When the merchant reached his destination, he sold his cargo and then filled the ship with rare spices and precious silks to bring home. Before he left, he bought things at the market for the cook, the maid, and the butler. But he forgot the kitchen boy. It wasn't until he was about to return home that he remembered the honest penny. "I'm not going back to the market for the sake of a penny," the merchant said to himself. "The boy will have to do without." Just then, an old woman came along, carrying a lumpy bag wriggling in her arms. "What have you got there?" asked the merchant. "My cat, Grimalkin," said the old woman. "I can't afford to feed her any more, so I'm going to throw her in the sea." "Will you sell her for a penny?" asked the merchant. The old woman agreed, so he gave her the honest penny and took the cat on board. As soon as the ship set sail, Grimalkin ran up the main mast and sat on top. Once they were at sea, a storm blew up and drove the ship off course for 3 days. When it died down, the ship came to an island the merchant had never seen before. He went ashore and found an inn. At the inn, people were sitting at tables waiting to eat. Beside each plate lay a stout wooden stick. The merchant was puzzled. What did they use those for? He wondered. As soon as the food was served, he saw clearly enough. Hundreds of mice suddenly appeared and scampered up the table legs to steal the food. People swung the sticks about trying to knock them away, but the mice took no notice. "It's hard work eating here," the merchant said to the innkeeper. "Don't you have cats in this land?" "What's a cat?" asked the innkeeper. The merchant grinned. "I'll show you," he said, and he went back to the ship to fetch Grimalkin. As soon as the mice saw the cat, they turned tail and ran back to their holes. All the people were amazed. The innkeeper begged the merchant to sell him the cat. "I'll only sell her for 100 gold crowns," said the merchant. The desperate innkeeper agreed and gave him the money. The merchant returned to his ship and set sail once more. As soon as he left the harbour, the cat reappeared on top of the mainmast. "Hey, Grimalkin!" cried the merchant. "The boy can have you, but I shall keep the gold for myself. After all, everyone looks after himself first." At these words, a storm blew up, fiercer than before, and drove the ship to another strange land. There, exactly the same thing happened. However, the sticks were thicker than those at the first inn because the mice were twice as big. Once again, the merchant fetched the cat. This time, he sold her for 500 gold crowns. But when the ship set sail, there was Grimalkin sitting on top of the mainmast. "I shall take you back to the boy," cried the merchant, "but the gold is mine. After all, everyone looks after himself first." No sooner had he spoken than a storm blew up, even fiercer than before. It drove the ship to another strange land, and there the tables of the inn were laid with iron rods as thick as broom handles, for that land was plagued with thousands of big rats. When the innkeeper saw the rats run away from Grimalkin, he paid the merchant 1,000 gold crowns for her. However, just as before, the cat returned to the merchant's ship. The merchant thought about how much money the boy's honest penny had made. "Maybe I'll give the boy a few coins," he told Grimalkin, "but I'll keep the rest. After all, everyone looks after himself first." Suddenly, the sky darkened. The sea swelled. A mighty tempest tossed the ship on towering waves, and the sailors feared they would all drown. The merchant realised that there was only one way to save them. He shouted up to Grimalkin. "All right, I promise the boy shall have all the money," he cried. "Every gold coin, and you too." Then the skies cleared, the sun shone, and a fresh breeze blew the ship straight home. The merchant kept his promise. In exchange for the honest penny, he gave Grimalkin and all the gold to the boy, which made him richer than his master. The boy brought his mother to live with him in a fine house by the sea, where he treated her better than he treated himself. "After all," he said, "I don't think everyone should look after himself first." Now, let's take a journey with the Tortoise and the Monkey. There was once an old tortoise who lived with his wife and family in a large lake, on the borders of which grew an extensive jungle. And in the forest there were many wild beasts, more especially monkeys, who swarmed in great numbers all along the shores of the lake. It happened one day that the tortoise came out of the lake and went for a stroll among the trees which grew near the water. After walking for some distance, he became hungry, and looking up into a coconut tree near which he found himself, he thought how much he should like to get one of the coconuts which were growing near the top. He made several awkward attempts to climb the tree, but the stem was so straight and so smooth that he was quite unable to succeed, and he was just about to give up the attempt in despair when he spied a large monkey sitting among the branches. The monkey, who had been watching with some curiosity the tortoise's attempts to climb the tree, felt rather sorry at his failure, and noticing that the tortoise was a fine, well-grown fellow with a very handsome shell, he thought he would do him a kindness. So, breaking off one or two of the coconuts, he threw them down to the tortoise, who gratefully ate the fruit. The two animals now entered into conversation with one another, and soon, striking up quite a friendship, the monkey led the tortoise away into the jungle and showed him a comfortable cave where he could spend the night. The tortoise was so interested in all he saw and so pleased with his friend the monkey that he remained for several days in the forest, moving about during the day and sleeping with the monkey in the cave every night. Meanwhile, Mrs. Tortoise was becoming rather anxious concerning her husband's prolonged absence. He had never been away from home for so long before. So finally she dispatched one of the young tortoises to find out where his father was and how he was getting on. The young tortoise accordingly swam to land, and after hunting about for some time in the forest, he came across his father near the cave. "Good morning, father," said he. "Mother has sent me to find out where you are and how you are getting on." "Oh, I am all right, my boy," replied Father Tortoise. "Tell mother she need not trouble about me. My friend Brother Monkey and I are just having a good time in the forest, and I will be home in a few days. Now run off to your mother." So the young tortoise went back to his mother and told her what had happened. Mrs. Tortoise was not at all pleased at her husband's conduct. "It is quite time," thought she, "that he should return to his wife and family, instead of amusing himself with a vulgar monkey in the forest." So she sent the boy back again to his father with a message to say that Mrs. Tortoise was very ill, and that her physician had told her that the only thing to cure her was a monkey's heart. Therefore, he must return at once to his home and bring a monkey along with him. The young tortoise accordingly proceeded to hunt out his father again, and as soon as he met him, he gave him Mrs. Tortoise's message. On hearing the news of his wife's illness, Mr. Tortoise became much alarmed and reproached himself for having stayed away for so long, and in order to secure the necessary medicine for his wife, he informed his friend the monkey that he was obliged to return home at once on urgent business. And he invited the monkey to come and spend a few days at his house. The monkey accepted his friend's invitation, and the two set off together to the shores of the lake. When the monkey understood that it would be necessary for him to enter the lake, he became rather alarmed and remarked to the tortoise that, never having been in the water, he was afraid it would be difficult for him to reach the tortoise's home. "Oh, never fear about that, brother monkey," said the tortoise. "I can arrange that quite simply. If you will mount upon my back, I will swim with you wherever we want to go." So the monkey mounted upon the tortoise's back, and the tortoise set out to swim to his house. As they went across the lake, the tortoise began telling the monkey about his wife's illness, and in doing so, he foolishly let slip that the only medicine to cure her was a monkey's heart. On hearing this, the monkey became very much alarmed and saw that he was being led into a trap. "Dear me, brother tortoise," said he, "I am very much grieved to hear of your wife's illness. But if she is as bad as all that, I do not think that one monkey's heart will be enough. I should think that 3 or 4 at least would be required in order to effect a cure. If you like, I can easily get several other monkeys from among my friends to accompany us to your home." The tortoise thought that this was a grand idea and agreed to carry the monkey back to the shore and to await him there while he went off to fetch some other monkeys. So he turned around and swam back through the lake till he reached the edge, where he waddled out onto the beach. As soon as he found himself on dry land, the monkey skipped off the tortoise's back as fast as he could and climbed in a twinkling to the top of the tallest tree he could find. On reaching the top of the tree, he began reviling the tortoise and calling out every bad name he could think of. "You're a nice sort of friend," said he, "to ask me to pay a visit to your home in order to kill me and use my heart as medicine for your ugly wife. Do you call that a proper return for all my attention to you and for showing you all over the jungle? However, I have been too clever for you this time, and you will have to do without my heart for many a long day to come. And as to the hearts of those other monkeys that I promised you, well, you can just wait till you find them for yourself." The tortoise, on hearing those words, fell into a violent passion and made several efforts to climb the tree in order to punish the monkey. But being quite unable to climb at all, he soon gave up his attempt and determined to get even with the monkey in some other way. So he hid himself in the water until evening, and as soon as it was dusk, he came out on the land and proceeded very quietly to the cave where he and the monkey had lived together, and concealed himself in the darkest corner of it, waiting till the monkey should come in. The monkey, however, was a good deal too clever to be caught in a simple trap like this. When his usual bedtime arrived, he came to the mouth of the cave, and looking in, he called out in a loud voice, "Oh, great cave, great cave!" The tortoise lay low in his dark corner and gave no sign of life. After a few moments of silence, the monkey again called out, "Oh, great cave, great cave!" Still the tortoise lay low and gave no sign. "Curious thing," said the monkey to himself in an audible tone of voice. "Very curious. There used always to be an echo in this cave, but I can't hear the slightest echo tonight. There must be something wrong." After saying this, he called out again, "Oh, great cave, great cave." The foolish tortoise, thinking that if he simulated an echo, the monkey would enter the cave as usual, hereupon gave answer from his dark corner, "Oh, great cave, great cave." On hearing this, the monkey chuckled to himself at the simplicity of the tortoise and went off to sleep in some other part of the forest. I hope you enjoyed this special omnibus edition of Journey with Story. And don't forget, if you had a favourite story, do let us know. Just go to www.journeywithstory.com, click on the Contact Us, and fill in the form. And if you want to be considered for a shout out on the show, send us your drawings there too. Click on Contact Us, fill in the form, and attach your drawing there. You can also see the link in our episode notes. Cheerio then, join me next time for Journey with Story. Music and post-production was by Colette Jonas.